and welcome, or welcome back to my channel. Today I've got some super fun Christmas DIYs to share with you that I think you're really going to enjoy. So if you want to know how to make them, stick around. I'll show you how. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Right, Maxwell? Okay, for this one, I'm going to start with some Christmas tree shapes that I got at Amazon. I'll give you the link for those. And then I'm going to use a nautical blue chalk paint on these. And I'm going to mix this with a little bit of black to get it a little bit more of a midnight color. Just a little bit of black, blend them in together. And then I'm going to paint the front, the back, the sides, all of these completely with this color. Be sure when you mix it, mix up enough so that you don't run out while you're painting it, because you won't be able to get that color match back again. Okay, next I got these stencils on Amazon. I'll give you the link for these, and I'm going to stencil these onto these trees. So I'm going to put the largest one on the largest tree, the smallest on the smallest, and the medium one on the medium one. And I'm going to stencil these with a briar patch paint. It's from Dixie Belle. I'll give you the link for that as well. And I'm just going to use a little sponge to kind of put these on with. Just kind of dab it on there so it doesn't leak. And then cover up any of the other part of the stencil that's showing so you don't accidentally stencil that on as well. And I'm just dabbing this until I get it as dark as I want it. Just remove your stencil, and then I recommend washing it before you put the next one on. Then I'm going to stencil the other two exactly the same way. I'm just going to tape this on, cover up the area of the other stencil, and then I'm going to use the same color and the same dabber to stencil that on. Once you got them all done, just set them aside and let them dry really well. Okay, next I'm going to start adding texture to my trees. I'm just using a real dark green on this one and a small paintbrush. And I'm just going to kind of brush little strokes onto my tree just to give it a little bit of color definition and make it a little bit more realistic. I'm just kind of brushing some strokes outward on here just to kind of give it a little bit of color definition, and I'm going to do all of my trees exactly the same way. Just start adding some darker colors, and then we're going to come in with a little bit of lighter color just to kind of finish it out. And you could do this with any of the tree shapes. Dollar Tree has tree shapes, so does Hobby Lobby. But just kind of just brush outward on these, and it'll start really blending in good. For my next layer, I'm going to use some white paint to get the snow effect on here. Just kind of brush outward, and then kind of in the middle, just kind of brush some little strokes downward too. Just kind of fill it in a little bit just to get a little bit of snow on there. This is really easy to do. I mean, you just take your paintbrush and just kind of go with it. If you get too much of a color in one area, you can always go back in and touch it up with the regular color. Okay, next I'm coming in with a little bit of burnt umber, and I'm just adding a few little branches in here. Next I'm coming in with some white paint and a little stylus, and I'm going to put some little dots on here to kind of make it look like the sky is behind here. So I'm just using the little smallest round tip on my stylus, and I'm just going to randomly put some dots on here. Okay, next I'm going to take a 5-gallon stir stick, and I'm going to mark it at 9 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to cut it right there. Okay, next I'm going to take some burnt umber paint, and then I'm going to mix it with a little bit of water just to kind of create like a little stain. And then I'm just going to stain my board, both the front, the back, the sides, all of it, just with a paper towel. Just lightly put it on there, and it'll just kind of look like stain. Next, to assemble this, I'm going to use some E6000 glue and some hot glue, and I'm just going to evenly space these onto this board. Now I'm putting my two larger ones into the back, and then I'm going to put my smaller one in the front. But you want to kind of put them where they're touching each other so that when you put your front one on, it'll cover all the front of it up. Just put a little bit of E6000 and a little bit of hot glue. I don't know about you, but I struggle with my E6000 glue coming out of my tube. And then I'm just going to put this one right next to the other one, lined up into the back, and then I'm going to add my smaller one just to the front. This is a nice little trio of trees. It did turn out really cute. Okay, next I got these little silver stars. I've had these and I painted them years ago, and I'm just going to put one on the top of each one of my little trees. And I'm using different sizes on these. I had several different sizes. Next, I'm going to add a little greenery to the front. I just got these little greenery sprigs. I got these on Amazon. I just cut them off of a bigger piece of greenery. And then I'm going to add 2 to each side. Then I'm going to add a pine cone right on top of the 2 together. And then I'm just putting my pine cone right on top. And I'm going to match the same thing on the opposite side. Finish it off by taking a piece of jute and I'm going to tie a bow right around the center tree. All right, that was it. I think this turned out super cute. Okay, next I'm taking a piece of wood that measures 1 by 8 by 4 and I'm going to mark it at 13 inches. So I'm going to cut this board off at 13 inches. Then I'm taking 2 stir sticks and I'm just going to measure those across the board and mark those. And I'm going to cut 2 of those exactly the same width as that board. Okay, next to attach our piece of wood, we're going to come up a 1/2 inch on both sides. Just kind of line it up there, get your 1/2 inch, and then just draw a straight line across there so that when you glue it, you have a line to guide you. And we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And then I'm just going to attach these with some wood glue. And you don't need a lot of wood glue, just put a little bit down the center and then kind of spread it out with a little popsicle stick, and then we are going to clamp these. If you don't have clamps, don't worry about it. Just put it on there and set it aside. This is not going to be a stress point on here, so it's not going to come off. But I am clamping mine because I do want them to be tight. And you can get these clamps on Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive. I'll give you a link to some that are similar to mine. I've just had mine for so many years, but just kind of line it up good and then clamp them, and then we're going to do the opposite side exactly the same way. And just be sure once you get yours clamped that you get any of the excess glue off that's oozing out. Just get them clamped and then set this aside and let it dry really well. Next, to stain this, I'm just using some whole wheat stain that I got on Amazon. This is just a water-based stain, and I'm just using a soft rag to apply it. And don't worry if it's not perfect because we're going to cover this up with a lot of white paint as well. So just kind of get it on there good. And then you're going to do the front, the back, and the sides, all of it. And I think I only did really just 1 coat of this. You just want a little bit of a background of the wood color. And that's pretty much it. Okay, then I would decide to come back in with a little bit of darker stain because I wanted it to be a little bit darker. And I'm just adding this right over the top of the other stain. Then make sure that you do flip it over and get the back as well. You want a finished product. Okay, next I'm going to take some white chalk paint and a chip brush. I'm dipping my chip brush into the paint, wiping most of it off, and then I'm going to start distressing my wood. Now I'm going to distress this pretty heavily. I'm going to kind of go a little bit fast on this so you can see what I'm doing, but I am going to put quite a bit of the white. Now once you finish the front, you want to be sure and do your sides as well. And you can go either way, up and down, sideways, just really get a lot of that on there. This will make it really look old. And I'm going to add quite a bit of the white. Okay, next I'm going to take a piece of tissue paper and a piece of printer paper, and I'm going to cover the printer paper with the tissue paper. And I'm going to have the matte side of the tissue paper facing outward, and I'm just going to take some regular Scotch tape and tape my tissue paper to my printer paper. We're going to print it, run it through the printer. And we're just going to run this through the printer. Once that's printed, we're just going to cut the sides and try to keep as straight as you can. And I've given you the link for this print in the description below, so you can just download it and print it on your tissue paper. And you can kind of attach this however you want to. If you want the word joy to the world to show, pull it down a little bit, but I'm going to cut it off at both top and bottom. I just want the musical notes to show. To attach this, I'm going to use a generous amount of Mod Podge on here, so really get it pretty heavy on here. And then we're going to set this aside and let this dry completely, and then we're going to iron our music onto here. Okay, after that's dried, go ahead and line up your music on here. Make sure you do get it straight because once you start ironing it, it's permanent. And you're going to cover this with a piece of parchment paper just to protect it as you're ironing it. And I'm just using the Cricut Mini Heat Press on this. You can use any kind of iron you want. I just had this one. This one's kind of handy because it is small. But just make sure that you get every bit of that ironed on. You don't want any air bubbles under it, so just make sure you are getting it completely ironed. And then make sure that you're going up by the corners with your point of your iron too, just to make sure that they get in there well. Spend a little bit of time on this part because it's real important. Okay, next I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm just going to come right up against that edge and cut that off. Now spend some time on this part. If you tear a little bit, don't worry because this is supposed to be a rustic piece. I did tear mine just a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. And then once you get that side done, flip it around and do the same thing to the bottom part. Then to do the sides, we're just going to take a little sander. It's just a little hand sander. I'll give you the link for this. This is a real handy little tool, and it comes with a lot of different sanding pads with it, but it's an easy way to get some of this stuff off real quick without tearing it up. And do the same thing for this side as well. You're just kind of going away from the piece of wood. Okay, to decorate this, I got this garland from Amazon. I'll give you the link for it, and I'm just going to make a wreath. I'm going to roll it around 3 times into a circle, and then I'm going to start intertwining this through this. So get your 3 circles first put together. Just kind of twist that right there. Go around it 3 times, and then we're going to make this really thick by going through it and winding it through it. So just wrap it around 3 times, and then we're going to start winding it. About like that, and then just start running that through, just kind of wrapping it around to tighten it all up. And you get quite a bit of this garland in one roll. This is just part of a roll, but it comes in a big roll. And finally I figured out if you just roll up the end of it, make it a little bit smaller, it was a little bit easier. You can use this garland on so many different things. It makes really pretty small wreaths. But just keep going till you have it completely wrapped around it a couple of times because we want it to be pretty thick. And if you want to go buy a store-bought wreath, you can do that too. They make small ones and you can get those at Hobby Lobby as well. And then that's how mine ended up looking. It's really made a nice wreath. Next, to attach it, I'm just going to take some gray and white checked ribbon, and I'm just going to pull it right up to the top, and I'm going to staple this off into the back. Just kind of figure out exactly where you want it, and then just flip it over, and we're going to staple it. Okay, then to staple this, I'm just going to use a little hand stapler that I got at Amazon. This is actually charges with a USB. It's real handy because it doesn't take a lot of effort to use this. And then I'm just going to cut off the excess. Okay, and then once you get it exactly where you want it, I'm just going to glue the back part of the ribbon to the board so it stays in place. Just kind of line it up good, put a little bit more glue underneath there just to hold it all together. To add a little decor to my board, I've got these little brads from Amazon, and I'm just going to cut the backs of these off. If you cut the back off and then you can just mash them, it'll mash down the little part that's still sticking up. And try not to let those fly everywhere. That's why I'm kind of cupping them into my hand. But just smash the back of them down, and then they will be flat. And then we're just going to glue these to each corner of our board. So just put a little dollop of glue right there and attach it. We're going to put 4 of these on here. And then we're going to match them down at the bottom to the other 2. Okay, next I just cut out the words "Joy to the World" with my Cricut, and I'm just attaching it right down to the bottom edge. Okay, next I printed this little joy banner on my printer. I'm just printing it on some regular craft paper cardstock. I'll give you the link for this, and I'll also give you the link for the banner if you want to download this one and cut it out. I'm going to put this onto my wreath, and then I'm going to take a ribbon. This is just a green and white check ribbon. I'll give you the link for this. This is kind of an olive color and white. And I'm just going to attach my banner and my ribbon to my wreath just to kind of dress it up a little bit. And I'm just putting this on at a diagonal, just gluing it on both sides. And then I'm just going to glue my ribbon right to the side. And then to give it a little bit more rustic charm, I'm just taking a little bell that I painted brown. And I'm going to cut the back of it off so it's flat. And then I'm just going to glue it right on top of the top part of my ribbon. All right, I think that turned out so pretty. Let me know what you think in the comments. For this next one, I'm just going to use a cardboard box. So I'm going to cut this box apart because we're just going to use part of it. I'm using a piece of cardboard that measures 5¼ inches by 12½ inches. Just make sure that it is even all the way across. And then we're going to take an X-Acto knife and we're just going to start scoring it. You're only scoring through the first layer of the cardboard. And we're going about every 1/4 inch just to score this. And we're going to go all across our board. Just make sure that you are getting through the top layer of that cardboard because we are going to make this into a circle and it's going to have to be able to open up and bend around. So you're going to go all the way to the end of your piece of cardboard like that and then just kind of score it and make sure that your pieces open up. And then once you get to this point, just make sure that each little section does fold. And you may have to take some time, just kind of pop them together. Just kind of open them up, just go down each one of them, just make sure that they do open up good because you do want to make a circle out of this. They'll be a little bit tight at first, but just go down each individual row and open them up. And if you need to score them a little bit more to get them open better, then you can do that at that time. Okay, once you get all that open, then we're going to cut this in half. And what we're making out of this, we're making 2 little drummer boy drums. So you're just going to cut this completely in half because we're going to make 2 drums out of this one piece of cardboard. Just draw your line right down the center and then grab your X-Acto knife and you're going to cut it with that. Just cut it straight down the center to divide the 2 in half. Okay, next I'm going to take a piece of craft foam and I'm just going to cut a couple pieces that are about 3/4 inch wide. This is what we're going to use to complete our circle. So you can put half of it on this side and then you can put some glue on this side as well and connect the 2 in the center. We don't want any overlapping. You want it to be flat. And then you can just trim off any excess craft foam. And we're going to do our other drum exactly the same way. I'm just going to do one of these drums, but they're going to be identical to each other. Just make sure that you do have it pretty flat. Next, we're going to put glue all the way around the bottom. And then I'm using a cracker box. You can use a cereal box or anything like that. You want a thin cardboard for this part. And then when you place it down onto your box, you want to try and keep that circle round. After those have dried, I'm just going to kind of cut them in half. I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch all the way around these. And then I'm going to trim them out with some scissors, leaving a 1/2 inch around each one of these circles. And just grab some scissors and just cut all the way around it, leaving that 1/2 inch. Okay, next we're just going to take our scissors and we're going to make 1/4 inch cuts all the way around. And I'm sorry you can't see what I'm doing, but when I turn it over and fold it over, you'll see exactly what I did. And then you're just going to bend them over the tabs all the way around, and this is what's going to help us glue it down. This will give it a nice top on the top once we're finished doing this. And we're just going to take some hot glue and glue it. So just really push those down. Hold them as you're going all the way around, but you want to make sure that they are pretty flat against your cardboard. And then just continue to glue all the way around till you have all your flaps glued down. Really spend some time on this part because you want it to be flat. Get that side done, then spend a little bit of time on the opposite end, just making sure that this is good and round. And then we're going to glue it to a cardboard piece and do exactly the same thing we just did to the lid. Just kind of make sure that it is good and round right there. And then we're going to glue this side to another piece of cardboard and do exactly the same thing. You're going to cut a 1/2 inch all the way around this circle, just like you did the other side. And then we're going to do the same slits. We're going to fold them down and we're going to glue them to our box. When you get done, they should look like this. Next, we're going to take some Mod Podge and we are just going to paint the side of it. And then we're going to turn it over to the other side, paint it, and then we're going to let these dry on their side. And you want to put plenty of Mod Podge on here and then just set it down and let it dry really good. Okay, next to cover these, we're just going to use some red felt. Just make sure that that is dry. Lay it onto your fabric. You just want the same thing. You want about a 1/2 inch overhang all the way around this. And we're going to iron our felt onto our box before we cut it and do the little slits all the way around it. So just take a little iron, just kind of heat it up. This will adhere the felt to your box. It's not going to be permanent, but when we put the little slits on the side, it will hold it permanently. Just really get it heated up good so that it does adhere to this, and then just cut around the circle a 1/2 inch all the way around, and then we're going to do those same little slits and fold it over. When you're gluing these, make sure that you are really pushing that up there so that it is flat. And then you're going to mirror this on the top. So you're going to do exactly the same thing on the top part of the box. Next, I'm taking a piece of 2-inch felt and I'm just going to start right here. And this is cut to go all the way around here. And we're going to do 2 layers of this. Now you could go a little bit smaller because I am going to show you here in a minute where I had to trim it. You just want to get right inside of where the cardboard is so that you're building it up so it's the same height as those 2 top and bottom sections. And I'll show you here in a section. So now I'm going to add another piece to build it up a little bit taller. And then I'm going to have to kind of trim it down a little bit so it's not overlapping the top and the bottom lid. And I'll show you here in just a second because you want to just make sure that it is kind of flush with the top of the lid and the bottom of the lid and not overhanging it. Because you can see how you have a little lip on the top and the bottom right now. And we're going to trim that out with some scissors just so that it is kind of flush with the top and the bottom of those lids. So you're just kind of trimming it where it's not overhanging onto the lid area. And this is all going to come together here in a minute. Just hang in here with me. I promise it's all going to come together. Just make sure that that is below where that lip is. And then just go ahead and start gluing it in. Okay, next I'm going to take some craft foam that has glitter on it. And I'm just going to cut some 3/4 inch pieces off of this. Now, if you can get a sheet that's already big and long, you probably want to cut it a little bit longer, but I'm just going to stretch mine because this is what I had and I didn't want to have to go buy some more. But you're going to cut 4 pieces of this, and that's a 12-inch strip is what that is that I'm cutting. Okay, then I'm just going to hold it right at the back of the seam, and I'm going to start stretching this till it goes all the way around. This stuff stretches really good, so if you didn't get quite enough, you can stretch it, I promise. And I'm just going to start right at the back. I'm going to glue mine in, and I'm going to go right up to the top edge with this. And then continue to glue it and pull it till you get to the other side. And then we're just going to meet in the middle in the back. And we're going to do that to the bottom as well, and the same thing with the other drum as well. Just overlap that right there, let that dry, and then go ahead and do the other side. Just be sure that you are pulling this pretty snug. Next, you're just going to measure all the way around your little drum. Mine ended up being 14 inches. So I'm going to divide each section by 2. So I'm just go every 2 inches, I'm going to make a mark. And I'm going to go all the way around doing this. Okay, next I'm going to start at the first dot and I'm going to put my cord right there. And then let that dry really good. And then you're just going to go up to the next one and you're going to glue it onto. And then we're going to put a little thumbtack in here just to hold this in place. And then we're going to put a thumbtack down at the bottom to hold that one in place. So put a little bit of glue to hold your thumbtack in, and then add your little thumbtack right down at the bottom. And that way you'll glue your thumbtack in and it'll pull your cord tight. And then you're going to go to the next one, go up to the second one, put a little bit of glue there, add your little thumbtack. And then you're just putting the bottom one centered between the two. But you want to pull that cord pretty tightly. And then just keep going until you have it completely finished, and then I'll show you how we're going to do right at the very end. And you can use whatever kind of string you want to. This is just a little cording that I got in the holiday section at Hobby Lobby. Once you get to the end, you're just going to cut your cord. We're going to put a little bit of glue right there, and we're going to put our thumbtack over the two pieces of cord and join them. And then we'll pull our last one down in the center to finish this off. And that was pretty much it on that. That turned out pretty cute. Next, to make some drumsticks, I'm just going to take some little skewers and some little doll heads, and I'm just going to glue them to these. And I'm just going to cut these short, probably about maybe 3.5 to 4 inches. And then we're just going to glue the little doll head onto it. And you can get those at Hobby Lobby. It's just a bead with a flat bottom. If you don't have a bead with a flat bottom, you could just use a regular bead. Just going to put a little bit of glue right inside and then just stick our stick in there and let that dry. And next, I'm just going to take some gold metallic paint and I'm just going to paint these. And I'm going to paint the ball and the stick both the same color. To secure these, I'm just going to cross them over each other and I'm just going to glue them right down to my drum. And then I'm going to put a little glue overlapping them, and then I'm going to put a little bit of glue underneath that other stick here in just a second as soon as this dries. And that was pretty much it. I think these turned out so cute. Let me know what you think in the comments.
You might think the weather's kind of cold, but you know.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope it gave you some inspiration. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when I have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And if nobody's told you today, you're awesome. See you next time. Thanks for watching.